Autism is no longer a rare condition. Today, 1 in 36 children are diagnosed, and the number is unfortunately rising year after year. But what's even more alarming is how misunderstood this diagnosis has become, not just to doctors, but also to parents. Online, you're going to hear about this neurodiversity and being proud to be autistic. Listen, we believe in respecting and supporting every child, but for families navigating the daily realities of level 2 and especially level 3 autism, the truth is that it's just not a different way of thinking or a unique personality trait. These children are struggling with their health and in multitude of ways. And their families, they're in the trenches with them and they're in a constant crisis. We really have to go above and beyond celebrating this and get to the root cause so that these children can improve how their bodies are functioning, how they're healing, and allow them to be resilient as God designed their bodies to be. What we're going to talk about here today are children who can't speak, who can't sleep, who self-injure themselves, they scream for hours, they live trapped inside a nervous system stuck in complete overload. And the parents, they're running around on empty, trying to hold it all together. They get no breaks, they have no rest. Yet, the medical world still says the root cause is genetic, while functional medicine world blames the gut. But what if I were to tell you that there's something even deeper? A foundational neurological issue, which actually explains why so many of these kids cannot connect, they can't regulate, and they cannot develop the way that they're meant to. This video, we're going to break down the 3 levels of autism, what's really going on in this child and for their future. We're also going to understand how we're going to focus on the root cause and how there's a misinterpretation in our community at the root cause of autism, much deeper than just blaming it on faulty genes or genetics. To start with this, I'm going to tell you about a practice member, a little boy named Luke. His mom, Jackie, was always asking herself if her son would ever heal or ever be the same again. Her beautiful son started to regress at about 13 months. He had completely stopped talking, no verbal communication. He stopped making eye contact. He was incapable of regulating himself. He had a hard time sleeping. He had so many sensory distortions, and he wasn't connecting with anybody, not even his parents. It was extremely difficult for Luke and for his family who was helping him manage this. But by focusing on the powerhouse family that they are, they went all in to get Luke the help that he deserved. And he started to progress again. He started to heal towards his true potential. Now, his mom had said that the biggest impact in their life was introducing neurologically focused chiropractic care. Now, Luke was in an AD program. He was getting special therapies, and it was running alongside the chiropractic care. But chiropractic has been the number one tool to facilitate this reorganization of his body. It helped him progressively calm and retrain his nervous system so that his body could start connecting and healing on a much deeper level. Now, mom had stated that she knew that it was working when he started to get back to some of his normal activities. He started to have eye contact. He started to communicate with words and sounds. He started to regulate himself when he was under distress. But most importantly, he started to articulate words, started to have conversations with parents. And the mom and she vividly remembers that after an adjustment, Luke pops up and starts to say words. Now, this was so rare because Luke was nonverbal. He didn't say a word, but this momentum of neurological improvement and balance really started to gain this improvement. Now, this journey is lifelong. Luke is going to continue to make positive steps in the right direction, but now Luke's 10 years old, and mom says that Luke has healed to a degree that she unfortunately never thought he would get to. She had hoped and prayed that he would get back on track from his regression that happened at 13 months old. Now he's happy, he's healthy, he's more collected, and he's moving forward progressively, day by day, making advancements, no more regressions. We're going to start first on understanding the 3 different levels of what autism really means on these areas. Now, the DSM-5 categorizes autism into three distinctive categories. Level 1 is more requiring support for social communication and inflexible behaviors. There's subtle difficulties with social communication, things with initiating interactions and understanding social cues. These kids have difficulties with change of an activity or an environmental stressor. They have difficulty with organizing and planning. In the past, this was really considered what we would call Asperger's syndrome. Now, level 2 requires substantial support. These kids have more pronounced communication delays, and they have more of these repetitive behaviors that you'll see from a visual stance. There is a larger pronounced challenge with social communication, and there's difficulties in both verbal and nonverbal communication. There is a higher level of repetitive behaviors, which is considered stimming, and there's more challenges in changes in their routine, really hard to self-regulate their body. Now, level 3 requires very substantial support, and they're having severe communication impairments and severely limited social interaction. There are challenges with communication, which is the biggest part. A lot of these kids are nonverbal. They have a highly pronounced repetitive behavior with stimming activities, and they require intense support across the majority of activities of daily living. Now, these levels help to determine education and therapeutic support needs. They don't address anything of the underlying neurological dysfunction, though. And that's really one of the challenges that we're here to talk about today. Most families are never told that these levels can change over time when the root neurological cause is properly addressed. But they absolutely can change and will change if the right application is given to them, which really is finding the fundamental root causes to aid in their body's healing journey. The real root cause behind autism is not genetics. I'm sorry, there's no way that our genetic expression is causing this large of a trend with autism. It's exposure to stress and toxicity during critical developmental periods that trigger this neurological dysfunction that manifests as autism traits. We have to go deeper through just the identification of a level. At Maximize Chiropractic, we understand autism through a different lens. We look at it as the perfect storm. It's a concept. It's a sequential exposure to stressors, including fertility challenges with mom, high levels of maternal stress during pregnancy, birth trauma from interventions like forceps, vacuum extractions, or cesarean sections. They generally have low birth weight, prematurity with birth, excessive exposures to toxins, antibiotics, medications, vaccines, all these other chemicals at very early stages in life. Now, these factors create nervous system imbalances and a dysregulated system, which is also known as subluxation and dysautonomia, where the sympathetic fight or flight response becomes stuck in hyperdrive. And the parasympathetic vagus nerve, which is that rest, digest, and regulate system, is suppressed and it's literally shut down with its function and activity. This then triggers a cascade of effects within the body and the brain of the child with autism. It disrupts digestion and gut health. It triggers immune system challenges and neuroinflammation, and it causes severe challenges in motor tone with their coordination and development. It often leads not just to developmental delays, but also things like stimming or tics or toe walking. The list goes on. Now, level 2 and level 3 autism differ significantly from level 1. There's a major difference in these kids. Simply put, is that the severity of the neurological dysfunction and dysregulation is much higher in children struggling with level 2 and level 3 autism with regards to comparing them to level 1. And these dysfunctions and root cause triggers are driven much deeper within the body and brain. Now, it's not to say that level 1 kids don't still struggle with sleep and digestive impairments, motor and coordination, sensory challenges, and some forms of social anxieties. It's just not to the level and severity of their challenges are easier to adapt to and work with various therapies and supportive interventions. The earlier a child was exposed to these stressors and the more severe they were, the stronger the correlation to their level of autism severity later in life, which explains why some children require minimal support while others need very substantial assistance from parents or aides for their life activities. The difference with the medical model and the neurologically focused chiropractic care model is really the stance that most healthcare providers use therapies or medications to address symptoms. They look at autism as a collective diagnosis, but then they look at subcategories of symptoms. Well, they have gut issues, so we'll give them this medication. He has anxiety, so we'll give him this medication. He's not speaking, so we'll do this therapy. That works to a certain degree, but you have to understand that you're medicating and educating a very confused environment, a person who has zero connection in how their body adapts or functions. So this assistance from the outside in creates more confusion in most kids, and that's why most parents really find that there are minimal improvements with these therapies or treatments, and there's generally a roller coaster effect of change where they do improvements but then they see regression and it's nonstop. Now, neurologically focused chiropractic care addresses the root cause at a much different and deeper level. And it really starts with the use of our technology in the office, 100% focused to the nervous system. The most exciting thing for parents and really other healthcare professionals with our neurologically focused work is that we don't just need to rely on symptoms or surveys to sort out the severity of levels of a child's challenge. We actually measure in depth and we focus on the severity of their nervous system dysfunction and their subluxation patterns directly using a neurological insight scanning technology. Through the use of the neurothermal, which is a thermography scan, it looks for neuroinflammation and dysfunction. The surface EMG uses technology to measure disruptions within the neuromotor tone and coordination, while heart rate variability testing allows us to understand the overall neurological system and where dysregulation and dysautonomia are present. We will then know exactly what the depth and severity of the neurological dysfunction is within your child. Now, the best part of all is that it allows us to create a fully customized and personalized care plan. We use specialized adjusting protocols for each individual child, and it caters to their specific needs. There is no more cookie cutter approach for children with autism. And that's what they do in traditional medicine. Change the medication, change the brand, increase the dosage. And this is being followed exactly within functional or biomedical settings in our society. Our doctors are trained to use what we call neurometrics. And this helps define the severity of the sympathetic dominance, the subluxation, the vagus nerve damage, and it does it so well because of the technology that we first use to understand the severity of this challenge. Take a look at this example right now. I'm going to pull it up on the black screen, and we're going to take a look at what I commonly find with level 2 or level 3 challenges within a child. Just hold on one moment. All right, so this is a scan interpretation of a little boy. He's 6 years old, level 3 autism. And the reason I'm showing you this is to show you some similarities and trends that I see. Now, to orientate yourself, we've got normal scans up on the top. So there's 3 scans. We have the HRV scan right here. We have the neurothermal right here, which is the thermography scan. And then we have the surface EMG here on the right. Now, with the HRV scan, traditionally we want to see 100% activity of the autonomic nervous system. So we want to see the dot right here at 100%. And then within the nervous system, we want to see 100% balance between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Now, when we look at this little boy here, very commonly is that these kids enter in a sympathetic dominant stance, meaning that this boy right here showed that his balance was significantly off, even though activity levels were phenomenal. Now, when we look at this, I look at a lot of things that mom is doing great. She's feeding him healthy food. She's not labeling him. She's not placing him under additional stressors. He's in such an amazing household. Now, when we look at this right here, sympathetic dominance is associated with the stimulation of that autonomic nervous system. So the heart rate's out of control. His anxiety is super high. He stims during uncomfortable environments. He's unable to communicate and articulate words. This little boy is in a stressed out neurological state. So very commonly we see kids in zone 1 or zone 3 when they come into the office in level 2 or level 3 autism. Now, with the second scan, a neurothermal scan, thermography identifies temperature changes at each level of the spine. Now, when we look at this little boy here, his primary level of stress is here at C1. Now, that upper cervical spine houses the brainstem and cranial nerves that stimulate the autonomic nervous system to the largest degree. So when we see a subluxation pattern with that expression, it's going to affect nerves that facilitate function to organs like respiration and heart rate. You put those two together, you have anxiety. We're going to see challenges with the vagus nerve function because, again, the vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve that comes off the brainstem. So when this subluxation pattern is identified, it gives us a regional focus of where to look when we're adjusting these children. Now, the other scan here is still within the neurothermal scan. Instead of comparing it left to right like this one is, this is comparing it bottom to top. And anything with blue is identifying chronic levels of stress and distortion. Now, this again is all focused in the upper cervical C1, C2, and those areas there again are so neurologically active that it creates an assortment of challenges in the body's normal functionality. Now, the next one here is the surface EMG, neurologically focused electromyography. Now, this scan here shows muscle amplitude first right here. Now, muscle amplitude in red shows significant overstimulation. Those muscles are very tense, very tight, and it creates a tug of war and an imbalance in symmetry and tone. So when we look at these areas here, we're going to see very overactive segments, and that's going to create discoordination within the neuromotor system. When there's asymmetries in the upper cervical spine, that's going to affect nerves that allow for muscles with verbal communication. And what's happening here is that when we look at the bottom, the scan at the bottom, this little boy here, these lines here will be shown in black, and it's going to show muscle amplitude. But then we'll see underactive segments right here. And the challenge is that the overall neuromotor efficiency is very low, 52%. So the efficiency of that system being so low will pull energy reserves and energy focuses away from other systems in order to compensate postural upright trends. Now, this is where, when we look at these scans, they're a part of the clinical process to then create a customized care plan. And that's where, when we look at the individualized needs of a child based on what they will allow for or what they'll feel comfortable for, there is a very in-detailed algorithm to identify the exact approach that we will use, how often they'll get adjusted, how often we will do a reassessment through scans and an evaluation, what type of adjusting techniques are most appropriate and applicable for this child. But these scans are helping us to identify the level of neurological distress and where dysautonomia resides within that neurospinal system to the largest degree. Lastly, the best thing ever is that we track true nervous system healing over the time of our care plan progresses. And we allow you to see as a parent this improvement from a neurological analysis. It really allows you to see how they're working their way out of this perfect storm. This allows us to know for sure that our care is not just addressing symptoms or surface level challenges, but actually going into deeper layers of true healing and restoration of their body. Click on the link in our bio to learn more about these levels of autism and how neurologically focused chiropractic care may help your child and your entire family experience a much higher level and better quality of life.